Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Terror Express. Today we have Ken J. Casper Sr., and my guest host today is Troy Elke.
Hello,
We're going to be hello. And today we will, and today, sorry, see what I mean by blah. And today we'll be discussing our love for horror films and kind of just lean into whatever may come our way, whatever wickedness comes this way will come. So, Ken, how are you today?
I am blessed. How are you, sir?
I am very good. I wanted to introduce you specifically. You are a pillar of the horror community. You are among some of the well-known fans in the horror community with the groups and the movies and the promoting, and you have an impeccable reputation. And I just wanted to say that it's been an honor to know you and to be your brother in horror for quite a few years now.
So, yeah. And it's so flattering and such an honor to hear such words. I say it all the time. Horror fans are the best fans, most passionate fans in the business, and we're just some of the nicest, coolest people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
yeah. It's funny, you go
part of it.
You go to a convention and you see these people walking around wearing Leatherface, and they're carrying around these body parts and these limbs and these weapons, and you're very comfortable and you're drawn to them, and you walk up to them and you have the best conversation and you take your selfie, you part ways, and you become Facebook friends. Whereas in the supermarket, your average neighbor next door, if you bump into them, you're going to get yelled at, and you're going to get treated so much worse by a stranger at the grocery store than you would a horror family member, if you will. Yeah, you're right. It's an absolutely great community to be in.
Yeah, and I'll even flip that. It's a lot of I don't know a lot of horror fans personally. That I hang out with. I'm the weirdo, I'm the.
Me too.
Right.
Me too.
So it's like when people say, like, share this, like it's pretty worthless for me to share things like this on my personal page, because most of the people in my, that I know personally aren't the biggest horror fans necessarily. Although some do come out of the woodwork that I didn't even know about. It's like, oh, you're a fan too, after I post something or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll flip it to you saying it's like you meet somebody at a convention, blah, blah, blah. I've met people online like you.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't met you in person, nor Troy. I hope very much to do so one day. But I've been friends with somebody on Facebook, and we do the group viewings, and then I'll meet that person in person.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it'll be the same. Is it awkward? Is it too contrived or forced now? And it's not. It's like, oh wow, you're really cool, like in real life too,
Oh yeah, absolutely. What's been your most one of your most memorable experiences with meeting horror fans in person?
Well, it would have to be up in Blairstown. It's just, you get up there, and I'll share my first experience. The first time I went up to Blairstown was in 2013. It was the second ever official camp tour that they did at Camp Novi Bosco. Mm-hmm. So they did their first tour in 2011. Then they did one in 2013 that I was lucky enough to get into. And then they did it again in 2015. And I went to that one as well. So it was like every couple of years they would do it. Now they do it like every month. It's like, it's really just exploded. But so when I showed up there in 2013, we park our car, getting out of the car, and I'm like, like what am I in for here? Who am I going to meet? What kind of world am I getting into here? And the guy getting out of the car, and I hear him just start saying things like that. Just like my nieces, head full of rocks. And I looked, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in heaven here. Like, this guy's quoting this movie. Other people know this movie as well as me. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was so weird to me. And just fast forward, by the end of that day, I'll never forget I had my two sons with me on that one. And my one said to me afterwards, he was like, I was like, oh my God, that was like the greatest day, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, Dad, I got to tell, like, every time I looked at you, you had a smile on your face, like every single time.
It does that.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. And it's so hard to explain. It's like
every black sheep and weirdo fan. Now you're all together, and now no one's the black sheep. You're all the same. You know what I mean?
Well, I felt like I actually felt like the novice. I was like, oh my God, I thought I knew this better than anybody. you know,
That's
and then I'm
awesome.
like, oh my God, I don't know shit compared to these people. Excuse, I don't know if I can say it on this podcast.
Oh,
but-
you can say whatever you want. Absolutely, any language is welcome here.
yeah.
Yeah, I see these pictures in your Jaws poster and your shirt that you're wearing there, and your. If I were to see you for the very first time right here now, I would know instantly, just based on your taste of decor and your clothing, that you would be an amazing person and somebody that I would definitely want to converse with about the horror world and our love for the franchises that are wrapped up in it so perfectly that we love.
Absolutely.
The Jaws poster tells me, just having the Jaws poster there, that tells me everything I need to know.
Yeah.
The greatest movie of all times
Ever made.
ever made.
If I have 20 minutes to kill, I'll just put it on and watch Chrissy at the very beginning, because that whole sequence at the very beginning is terrifying. I still watch it and I think, okay, how did they do this? Because that wasn't a stunt double. That was the actor playing Chrissy doing that herself, and they would never do that today. And that looked very violent, the way she was getting jerked around. I mean, I know it was very controlled and planned and orchestrated, but it still looks.
Well, you
It's
know
so
how they
vicious.
did that, right? They had ropes. They had her limbs tied to ropes, and there were people yanking her back and forth on both sides. So I don't
Must
know
have
how
been pleasant.
that was.
Doesn't
It's a
sound
good
very
thing they were
pleasant.
coordinated. It would have sucked if they both went the wrong way.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting little note with Jaws. I just recently learned, Adam Marcus shared this, that whenever he's going to shoot principal photography for a project of his, he watches Jaws the night before to get
Yeah.
himself psyched up.
Fantastic.
I thought that was so cool, because he looks at Jaws like we do. It's like it's perfection. It's like, you know, what a better way to get yourself ready.
I've got.
I
I don't
have a
have a.
confession. I'm sorry,
Oh, go
Troy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I don't have a bunch of Jaws stuff, but one thing I did order, and I have a little jar with a thing on it, is sand from the beach where Alex Kintner lost his inflatable.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's kind of a prize possession. I like neat little shit like that. You know, it's just like, oh, this from there.
Ken, do you wanna show us your sand? Bring your sand back out here and
Yeah, this is not from Jaws. Let's go back. This is from the original Friday the 13th. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Is that a
that's
good
awesome.
look? Yep. This is actual water from Camp Crystal Lake, which is actually Camp Nobi Bosco up in North Jersey. It stands for North Bergen Boy Scouts. And you see that sand in the bottom there?
Mhm.
That sand from the beach where Alice beheads Mrs. Voorhees.
Nice.
That
Yeah.
would look good on my shelf. That would look really good on my shelf.
I would look
I'd
good
like to see that
somebody's
jar. I'd like to see that jar with the little floating Jason with the, on the bottom right in there. That'd be cool as shit. They make
That would
some
be cool.
aquarium decor.
Yeah.
That would look cool in there.
And just going back to Jaws real quick, Troy, that beach, the Alex Kintner beach, I was on that beach as well. So I've gone to Martha's Vineyard too. I went there one
awesome.
time on vacation, and that was awesome. I specifically went back a second time, again with my two youngest sons, and just to scout out Jaws locations.
Awesome.
And it was super. Yeah.
I have a confession to make, and I'm hoping neither one of you leave this interview instantly when I confess this to you. But one of my guilty pleasures is Jaws 3.
Oh, same. Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I love it. I love it. I saw it in the theater, and even with the crappy shark that the tail doesn't move, it's coming right up.
Yes.
Dennis Quaid. Was it Leah Thompson?
Yes.
They lacked.
Yes. Armstrong.
Yes, they tried too hard. The Friday the 13th part 3 was whatever kind of true 3D, and then I think on this they went to more traditional.
Yeah.
But again, yeah, I agree 100%. It's a guilty pleasure. I have movies that are just corny as shit, cheesier than a 7-Eleven nacho. But you know what I love? A 7-Eleven nacho. So
Exactly. And that was the first time I ever saw Leah Thompson. I've had a standing crush on her ever since. I saw it in the theater 4 times with my aunt. Carol took me to see it the very first time. And you said, pardon?
But was that your first Jaws in the theater?
It was. Yes. Yes. It was. Yep, it was. And when they were coming so slowly at the glass window, and the shark, it like taps the glass and the glass just shatters and the shark stops.
Yeah.
That's my pause and enjoy, eat my popcorn for a few seconds, resume moment. Yeah.
I've never seen a Lewis Gossett movie that I didn't enjoy. So there's that
Yeah.
too.
That's true. Enemy Mine. I was just talking to someone about the other
Uh-huh.
day. And, what a fantastic! In fact, Dennis Quaid again.
Yeah.
That was
Oh,
a fantastic movie
yeah.
as well.
To watch Lewis Gossett give birth
Yeah,
is something that
something magical.
it's something that should be on everyone's bucket list just to see.
Yeah. There's something magical about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Ken, what movie was it that got you anchored as a fan of horror? Did you have a movie or an experience that sealed the deal for you?
I gotta think. See, my memory's terrible with certain things like this, but I gotta believe it's Friday the 13th. For whatever reason, I've always been drawn to Friday the 13th. Now, I cannot tell you which Friday the 13th I saw first. I don't remember, but for sure, once I started watching the Friday the 13th, that was like, listen, I enjoy Halloween. I enjoyed Mare on Elm Street. I enjoy a bunch of them, but there was nothing like the Friday the 13th for me. I don't know what it was, but that's the one that grabbed me.
Yes.
Back to Jaws real quick, just because, what got me hooked. So my earliest childhood memory is sitting on my living room floor. This is 1975. I'm 5.5 years old. Is that right? 4.5.
Sounds right. Five.
No, it was 4.5, right? Yeah.
More than 69.
No, 5.5. Yeah. I'm sorry. 5.5 years old, sitting on my living room floor, bawling, crying my eyes out, watching my parents go out the door to go see Jaws and not taking me because they thought I was too young. And I wanted this. I was obviously crying my head off. No, I want to go. Nope, won't bring me. The moral of the story is, at 5.5 years old, I knew what I liked. I knew what interested me. And lo and behold, that wound up turning out to be my favorite movie of all times. So
yeah, it's an amazing film. And I have, when my then wife was pregnant with our daughter, her hormones were up out the roof. We were watching Jaws. It was the end of the movie. I hear sobbing. So I go, Wendy, what's wrong? And now sobbing, Kleenex, sobbing, tears down the cheek. They killed the shark. Oh, it was the best. It was my most memorable pregnant moment ever with my then wife.
Wow. She was rooting for the shark.
You think she was watching Beaches or Steel Magnolias or something, and that Julia Roberts had just died, but no, they killed the shark.
Poor Bruce.
Yeah, best moment.
I actually, it's funny because part 3, I ended up seeing. I want to say that Jaws 3 was after Friday the 13th part 3, but I don't know that specific. I think it was. Yeah. Anyway,
It was. Yeah. Because
I tried.
Friday the 13th was 82.
Oh yeah.
I think was 83.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what it was, but a couple of I grew up on horror movies. I was really always into, all the way from Creature from the Black Lagoon was one of my favorites, to Dial M for Murder, The Orient Express, and all. I like the mystery and the murder and that kind of thing. And what was Friday the 13th? I tried to go see Creepshow. And if you dressed up, you got in there at half price or whatever. Well, me and my buddy went down there, and we were, I think, 12, and they turned us back. So a couple of friends of mine that lived down the road, I watched Friday the 13th part 1 and 2 at their house. I don't remember if it was early HBO or early, VHS, beta, Laserdisc, whatever it was. But I had watched the 2 at a friend's house, and I went from Creature from the Black Lagoon to Friday the 13th. And this thrilled me. I was like, because it scared the shit out of me. And I was like this. And so I ended up talking to my uncle after the Creepshow debacle into going and taking me to Friday the 13th part 3. And I have seen Friday the 13th on opening night since. I have not one time missed. But my whole horror thing, actually, the jump for me, the leap was there was a little bridge in there, and my mom and I used to watch Siskel and Ebert, and they did like a 10-minute in
Bash.
1978, 10 minutes of Halloween, and it was when he was trying to get her in the closet, and she was standing in the doorway, and when he sat up behind her, I almost shit a cat, just and I was just like, oh my God, that was like, wow. It was like,
were you like, oh my
piano
God,
key comes in, right?
That's what that.
And then the piano key comes in by Carpenter when he said,
Yeah.
right?
That is the only song I know how to play on the piano. I taught myself the Halloween theme song on the piano.
Yeah. And I love when I heard that. When I heard that Carpenter did the music too, I was like, how cool is that?
Yeah. He did music recently for another horror film, and oh my God, was it X?
I don't know.
What movie did he recently do?
I'm trying to think of that.
It was very recent, but I remember watching it, and I was thinking, oh, this movie's got and I didn't even realize it was John Carpenter. I was like, this got a John Carpenter vibe. This sounds really good. And he had done the music for it. It was a new movie, literally within the last year. I'll have to look into it and see.
Let me ask you something, Ken. I am I think we all are lovers of the 80s horror. That's kind of where the birth of all of it really came from. There's nothing quite like the 80s horror. So in today's age, let's say in the last 5-10 years, what do you think, in your opinion, what movies did you enjoy that are a little bit newer, like you may have enjoyed some of the original horror? I mean, there's a lot of schlocky stuff and a lot of hit and misses, and there's some fun stuff and some creatures and stuff. But the 80s films, they just kind of had a feel. Mm-hmm. Is there any movies, in the last decade or so that what's your new, I guess, wave of movies that you think are great nowadays?
Yeah, it's a good question, and unfortunately, there's not a lot, and that's my fault. I don't give a lot of new stuff a shot. I'm one to watch the same ones I know that I love over and over again. But to answer your question more specifically, now I got to go back a little ways for this, but I guess the most recent one was It Follows.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that. I went and saw that in the theater and everything. And that definitely captured an 80s kind of feel. I think the set design, they even made it look like the 80s in that movie. So I enjoyed that. I thought it was a good story. Well done, blah, blah, blah. Hostel, big fan of Hostel. Again, but I'm going back a ways to bring these out, so
that's modern era. That's modern era.
Yeah. And then one other one that I would throw in there is Wolf Creek. Huge fan of Wolf Creek.
Now, true story.
Huge. Well, based off a true story, you know. Yeah, I think they played a lot with that.
Yeah, they always do.
John Jarrett, who played the killer in that movie, just tremendous. And then I don't know if you know John Jarrett or if you know the movie well at all, but he also has a small role in Django Unchained. Tarantino's Django Unchained.
I did not know that.
He's one of the guys at the end of the movie that with Quentin Tarantino that frees Django, that he winds up the guy who gives him his gun that he winds up shooting him with at the end of the movie to go back to rescue his love. But the guy has an Australian accent in the scene, so that is John Jarrett. He was the killer from Wolf Creek. So, and if you know about
nice
Tarantino
trivia
a little bit, Tarantino,
kung
fu movies, horror, that was that's what inspired Tarantino. These movies that we love,
Yeah.
And then he went on to make these incredible movies,
And I've said before, he really set the bar high, Tarantino.
Yeah. I'd love to see him. He's supposedly only doing one more movie. I'd love to see him try to recreate.
I heard there was a rumor. I don't know if it was just a legend or not, about him potentially at some point wanting to direct a Friday the 13th movie. Have you heard about this?
That that would just be like, because he's my favorite director, like
I love Tarantino. I do very much so. Yes.
like if that were to happen, I don't know if I can handle it.
Yeah, it would be pretty amazing, I think. I mean, I really do.
Exactly, yeah.
I think it would be preferable over Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Let's see what he does with the monsters before I criticize. I'm just the Halloween part 2 ruined it for
I
him.
saw the short trailer that he had. I loved the breaking through the front door with the music and the black and
I
white.
did too. I love the feel of the little teaser.
Then it went to color, and I got to tell you, I feel like, and I'll give it a shot, but I feel like that's kind of where he lost me. I would
Wait a
have stayed
minute.
black and white.
Did you see the reunion films like Monsters Go Home that are in
Yes,
color?
yes,
They
yeah.
are that colorful. I prefer them in
Yeah.
black and white myself. I'll watch one of the reunion movies that are in color, and I'll actually desaturate my television to black and white because it is more enjoyable with the monsters being black and white.
I always liked them better than the Addams Family. I mean, it was kind of the monsters with the Dragula, all their cool
Yeah,
cars.
it's a coin toss for me. I love the Addams Family too. It's back and forth.
Fred Gwynn was the breaker for me. That was the one that put me over the top.
His laugh that
Yeah.
that he did was great. But Ken, I want to go back to the 80s a little bit here with the 80s horror, because I think Troy really hit something on the head with that, because so many of us do love the 80s. I think it might be our generation, but do you have any favorite 80s horror movies that either only had 1 or 2 sequels or no sequels at all?
80. I got all right. I spit
Something
on
a
your
little more obscure.
I spit on your grave,
Uh-huh.
but that had sequels, but like much later on, kind of
Yeah.
deal. Of course, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but that precedes the 80s, and again had sequels much later on.
Yeah.
Evil Dead had a couple sequels. I hear Prom. I keep thinking of movies with sequels, but Prom Night fan.
I'm a huge Prom Night fan. I don't see Prom Night as having sequels. The ones that they made were horrible. The one that they said is a remake, to me, is not a remake. It's just a whole separate movie.
I never even watched them. Honestly,
No, Prom Night is one of my favorites.
They made a sequel to Prom Night. Jamie Lee Curtis's Prom Night.
There's 4 of them. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I know part 2 was called Hello Mary Lou or something.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Yeah.
Okay, Prom Night 2, Hello Mary Lou.
And that's got a cult following.
Yeah, Carrie ones, but
I tell you another
My
one. Gad, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say My Bloody Valentine. I always thought was something that they could have took Harry Warden and done 8 movies with him or something.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't think of that one. Love My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah.
Absolutely talk about having a feel. That movie has a feel, and that was made.
Yeah.
It's funny. What's in my DVD player right now is Meatballs.
Oh, nice.
Bill Murray, right?
All right. Thank you both very much. Was that Troy?
I said, nice to talk with you, gentlemen. Have
Yeah,
yourself an evening.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, hope to talk to you soon.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Absolutely. Both take care.
You too.
Take-
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.